By the beginning of the February Revolution, the leading figures of the Bolshevik faction were mostly in exile. This is very critical to understand here, okay? The main ideologues of Bolshevism had already been exiled out of Russia, and they were in other countries prior to the Bolshevik Revolution, including Lenin, who was exiled to Switzerland. After a highly secretive journey through train and boat through all of Europe, Lenin was eventually smuggled back into Russia after being exiled from it on April 16th, 1917. Upon Lenin's return, he immediately formulated a new program of action for the Bolshevik Party called the April Thesis, in which he demanded transfer of power to the Soviets, quote, in the interests of the proletariat and peasantry. Of course, it's always in the interests of the lower classes for these types of revolutions to take place. Faced with, because they're not genuine revolutions of freedom. They're there to set up a new control system. They're there to take people away from the idea of, oh, well, it's the kings and the czars and the ruling classes and the moneyed power. And now we're going to actually maintain control, but it's not going to be them. It's going to be the state that's going to maintain all power over them. It's just a new religion. That's all they're inventing. They're just trotting out one religion after another, getting people to believe into them, and their system of control is continuated. Okay, so upon his return, he immediately he formed the April Thesis in the interest of proletariat and peasantry. Faced with resistance, even among other supporters of Bolshevism, Lenin eventually managed to institute his plan with the support of the lower classes. They always fall for it. Lenin rejected, and when I say lower classes, we're talking about financially lower classes here. Lenin rejected the critical argument of his political opponents regarding Russia's unpreparedness for a social revolution and the inevitability of a Russian civil war. In April 1917, the split of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party was finalized. Lenin's April Thesis received the support of the majority of delegates, and the Bolsheviks took over the Russian government. After an assassination attempt upon Lenin, the Bolsheviks initiated a campaign of political repression and executions known as the Red Terror, mirroring the reign of terror of the French Revolution, which began in September 1918 and lasted until 1922. The Red Terror was chiefly carried out through the Cheka, the Bolshevik secret police, and was modeled on the reign of terror of the French Revolution. The purpose of the Red Terror was to seek out and eliminate all political dissent, opposition, and any other threats to Bolshevik power. The French Jacobin terror campaign was a blueprint for the Soviet Bolshevik Red Terror. Prominent Bolshevik leader Leon Trotsky had previously compared Vladimir Lenin to Maximilian Robespierre as early as 1904. And here you see the result of the Red Terror. Adopting the Leninist slogan, "Plunder the loot," the Bolsheviks proceeded to carry out complete confiscation of private property, which they considered to be, quote, acquired through the exploitation of the working people. However, the Bolsheviks never truly determined whether the property they confiscated was obtained through exploitation, or if in fact the owners adequately paid for the higher labor, or whether the owners had created the property with their own labor. They never even bothered to check any of that. They just took it. That's it, with violence. In 1918, Social Democrat Alexander Parvu described Bolshevism thusly, quote, "The essence of Bolshevism is simple: to ignite the revolution everywhere, not choosing the time, regardless of the political situation and other historical realities. Whoever is against the enemy, whoever is against is the enemy, and the conversation with the enemies is short. Whoever is against is the enemy, and they are subject to urgent and unconditional destruction." In March 1918, the Bolshevik